Welcome back, fellow milk drinkers, to yet another Monday Milk Review. My name is Jacob, and today marks the very last Monday Milk Review of 2020. If you're unfamiliar with the Monday Milk Review, this is a weekly series that releases every Monday looking at new or weird flavored milks. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like the video and maybe even leave a comment. It helps promote my video in the algorithm, and if you want to keep up to date with everything I'm trying, be sure to subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're almost at, I think, 500. I don't know, it might be at like 5 off or something right now. It's super cool to see what this channel has achieved with just a little bit of effort every week. But let's get into Nippy's Iced Vanilla, shall we? Nippy's is a company based in South Australia, which I've actually done some collaborative work with. They sent me a big box of products, including this one. So if you want to see the unboxing of that video, I'll link it down below. I'm sure some of you might find that really interesting to see all of the goodies I got. Now, Nippy's is a little bit harder to find in Queensland, sadly. Coles, for instance, will sell your chocolate and iced coffee, but nothing else. IGA has a range, but I don't think I've ever seen iced vanilla in an IGA before. But if you are super interested in trying it, why don't you maybe order it wholesale from their website? That's always an availability through Nippy's. But let's get into vanilla. A little bit of a boring taste, however, I have heard really good things. This one seems to be a bit of a fan favorite amongst Nippy connoisseurs. Nippy's does have a special way of opening it. I'm going to give that a little snip, and then I'm going to poke a hole. Well, that didn't go great, but the hole's there in the straw bit. The straw hole, I still haven't figured out. It's a membrane of foil. You put the straw... You know what I'm talking about. Just, I don't know a name for it, but you know what it is. And we're going to pour into the glass right now. So it is what you would expect it to be. Giving it a sniff from the carton. Ooh, it smells quite pleasant. It reminds me quite a lot of Breaker's odor. Breaker does have a vanilla flavor. It's pretty hard to find in Queensland, but it does smell a lot like that. Smelling from the glass, you really get that rich scent of vanilla from it. It's still very similar to a Breaker in odor, but let's get into the taste now, shall we? So funnily enough, I know that this is a vanilla, but it actually has a similar aftertaste to Oak's Vanilla Malt. I don't know if malt is actually in this, but that's what it reminds me of. And I find Oak's Vanilla Malt just a little bit overpowered, so I actually find this a little bit nicer in terms of its balance. As for the thickness and creaminess, it is a little bit watery, but that's a long life milk for you. These last a full year in storage. They don't have to be refrigerated or anything. So from a practicality standpoint, it's really no great sacrifice. You could buy a carton of these, like a big box of them, and then just leave them in your cupboard, put them in the fridge as you need them, or even leave it in your car and you have an emergency milk on the road. This is a reduced fat milk as well. It's said to have about 35% less fat than standard milk. So if you are being a little bit diet conscious, this might also be a really good option for you. There's also no preservatives, but it does contain gluten. I know a lot of Nippy's products are gluten-free, but sadly not this one. This is definitely a product that you can easily finish yourself. It's definitely not too boisterous or obnoxious in any sense. It's very palatable, easy to drink, which, come to think of it, is kind of weird because vanilla doesn't have very great representation in the flavored milk markets. All you really commonly see, in my instance, is Oak's Vanilla Malt. That's it. That's all that I commonly see. There's so few vanillas actually out on the market. I would say it's probably because it's just not a super desirable flavor, but that's anyone's guess as to why it's so greatly underrepresented. Now, I can very easily finish this glass. It goes down super well. It's perhaps not super creamy. I would like it a little bit creamier, but you can't really fault a product for being a long life milk. When it is a long life milk, there's just some limitations to that kind of product. I will say that of the long life milk products, Nippy's tend to be my favorite. I don't commonly see too many long life Why is this so hard to say? Long life milk products, which are very nice. Often they taste really watery and they're just not the same as your premium range. I, of course, am very indulgent in my tastes. I really like the Norco Real Ice Chocolate. I love that thick, creamy texture with the rich taste. If you're feeling something a little bit lighter, this is definitely a good option for you, and I could definitely recommend Nippy's Chocolate for that matter. As for the iced vanilla, I don't really feel too swelled by it. It's good, but vanilla just doesn't really stand out greatly. It seems like it's just one of those flavors that feels a little average. That being said, I'm gonna give it a 7. I think it does its job perfectly well. It's just that it's nothing to write home about, you know? That about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Monday Milk Review. I am planning on maybe making a best of 2020 milks. That was suggested to me by a user on one of my videos. Put a picture up of that if I can find it. If you've enjoyed today's video, do remember to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Thank you again very much for watching, and I'll see you next week in the Monday Milk Review. Bye bye!